All right, welcome to the latest edition of the FPL America podcast. This is David Smith.
Travis Hoig.
Brian Chesko.
Gentlemen, in the middle of a match week, nothing burns me more than being in the middle of a match week, and we're going to talk about things we can't even do anything about until after. That's not true. I guess we could do things about it now because the match week's already started.
Yeah. Doesn't help us for a while.
It doesn't.
All the stuff that matters is going to happen tomorrow and Thursday. That's
true.
The other worst
That's
part about it.
That's true.
The stuff that happened in game week 30, you're already forgetting about.
Right, because the new
start
match
of game week 31 is messing you up.
All right, so I think we'll be here for about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we'll be done.
All right, I can live with that.
I don't have video on you. Do you have video?
I turned it off.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
I just figured you guys don't need to look at me because you're looking at me.
That's not it.
Okay.
I feel like that's
I just want to make sure that it's
really
not
fair.
Messing the vibe up. I mean, and yeah, he gets to hide from us. All right, fair enough. Listen, I think
you should talk a little bit about game week 30 because minimum, the top of the table has shifted now.
For sure. So, it was a massive, massive weekend. At least, look, this is the best title race, a 3-team title race the league has seen, I think, in 20 years.
That's fair.
Massive things happened this weekend. Let's just dive right into it. I don't have any nonsense. I could probably come up with some. I have a million pet stories I could tell. No one cares about.
Can you tell
pets.
he has somewhere to be after this, Brian?
I'm wearing one of my favorite. I have a million Goodwill and Vintage T-shirts.
Yeah, sure,
I got a billion of them, but this is one of my all-time favorites.
Is that
it's
a
POW MIA? Vietnam T-shirt. On the back, it says Pennsylvania Cares, and it's the list of every POW and missing in action soldier from Vietnam from Pennsylvania.
Wow.
Crazy.
Wow.
You just have to trust me. It's on the back.
I'm going to.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
That's
Very
not why.
cool.
That's not why we're here, though.
It's not. A salute to all the veterans out there at this point and the POWs.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they're listening?
You never know. I've seen and heard of weirder things. Anyways, so let's dive into this. Yes, Travis is right. I have somewhere to be right after this. I have to pick up my daughter at someone's house, and I shan't be late.
Okay.
All right. So, big game of the weekend. Liverpool plays first on Sunday. Liverpool takes care of business by hook or by crook. Good for them. Brighton has been a bogey team for them. Brighton scores in the first 2 minutes off a Danny Welbeck goal.
There was no Leandro Trossard. They had no chance of.
There was no Malpay. There was no Malpay. Right. There was no Trossard.
Great points.
Anyways, ex-gunner Welbeck, I thought was this is brilliant. Welbeck helping the Gunners out here as he scores in the second minute, only to be undone by Diaz and Salah, and all the Salah captain and owners very pumped about that. So that brings us to the next match, and we'll come back to this. I'm not just blasting past there because Liverpool has a lot of guys we need to talk about, especially Darwin. So then jumping into the match after that, not arguably the match of the weekend, City Arsenal for the neutral. It was sort of a snooze fest.
It was super boring,
and for an Arsenal fan, it was kind of boring too. If you would have said, "Hey, you get out of there with a draw," I'd take it.
I think both teams would have taken
a loss. I think it meant more for City getting a win than it did Arsenal. And I think
that with them trailing as far as they are, you're absolutely right. They needed to close that gap.
They needed to, and that's the third time Arsenal's played City this year, and they have 0 defeats against them. They have 2 wins and a draw, and the draw is at City. So City, look, a lot of people wanted Arsenal and were disappointed that Arsenal didn't go after that game more. I get that. As for me, I think there was a lot of other things at play. I think neutralizing City to 1 shot at home on target, I think is a pretty big deal. De Bruyne, Foden, Haaland never really were too threatening. Haaland had a couple chances. He did not have a lot of touches. And City has scored in 57 straight home games there at the Etihad. So, anyway, all that being said, I think for Arsenal, it was a good result. Yes, do I wish they would have gone after it maybe a little bit more? I don't know if it was Arsenal's game plan or if Pep changed some things and Arsenal had a harder time adapting to it.
It really looked like it was Arsenal's game plan. It really looked at it. The way they were pressing, especially in the first half, was really conservative, very conservative, and they really, really let City play and pass the ball around as much as they possibly wanted to without any kind of pressure until they really got into like the final third. There was no the high press that they've been putting on all season just wasn't there in the first half.
Yeah,
and in the later in the second half, they did start to press much higher, much more aggressively, and they put City under pressure. But it actually opened Arsenal up.
Yeah,
and so I think Arteta was sitting back a little bit.
Yeah,
as a game plan.
Well, it could be, and the only reason I want to bring this up, there's a guy I follow on Twitter. I refuse to say X, but
he just did.
I know. I did it for Brian because Brian says X, and I like it when he says X. I say say Twitter.
The morning show version of.
So he, a guy I follow, I think it's at EBL. He had a threaded breakdown of stills, and he had a couple points that. And I can't remember. I don't think he's a direct Arsenal fan. Maybe he is. But what he noticed in the stills and watching back was Kovacic started, and he was dropping back as a center back to free up guys going forward. And he was mentioning that I don't think Arteta and Arsenal were ready for that move, and that it created other mismatches and overloads that they weren't ready for. They were not expecting Kovacic to drop back almost in a fullback position to create. So anyways, I thought that was an interesting take, someone who seems like he's pretty knowledgeable on things and his breakdown, and I definitely didn't see that. I saw what I consider to be what everyone else saw, Arsenal not really getting after it as much.
Yeah.
And so, look, we can look back at the end of the season and get, all that being said, they still had a few chances. Trossard should have had a pass to Martinelli wide open in front of goal. Jesus had a tap in that he missed. And granted, you could say the same thing about City. I think City, Holland missed one that he normally kind of hits.
He was getting worked by Gabriel.
Look, for Arsenal, who came to Etihad last year, I think lost 4-1, and then City beat Arsenal at Arsenal 3-1 last year. For them to come to the Etihad, and then especially they're both on the same side of the bracket. If Arsenal gets by Bayern, this is not a Champions League podcast, and if City gets by Madrid, then City and Arsenal meet in the semis. And so all of a sudden we now have another home and home. Yeah. Arsenal going into that will have 2 wins and a draw against City this year. So I think mentally, look, let's not forget also April is when Arsenal fell apart last year. And so
different team.
It is, but it's taken these type of results. Arsenal doesn't go in there at this same scenario last year and get that result.
You think if they lose, they fall apart this year?
No, I don't. If they lose a game,
if they had lost that game against City, would they have fallen apart?
Game. I think the bigger. I just think when they go into their next matches, I think they're going to be so much more focused.
I was going to say
than they were, and or better prepared.
So the big thing is, first of all, Saka leaves early, which seems to be downplayed. Apparently, he was in training today. Right. So whether he starts against Luton or not, some people just expect he's in training because that was
right.
Let's not forget he wasn't even supposed to play against City because he was injured.
Yeah. Well, that was
So, he 77 minutes or something like that. So, if home to Luton, you need to win. That's the bottom line. He's in first team training, so I feel like even if he gets another 60 minutes or something like that, this is your Southampton from last season.
Right.
Or this is the start of it. Where you're like, okay.
Right. It was like Southampton and Newcastle and Crystal Palace.
Yeah, it was a bunch of games in a row like that.
And they lost 3 in a row, or they lost 2 and drew 1. Anyway, so I just think when you play a City or Liverpool, Tottenham, United, you can always get up for those games, right? I think the larger test coming up will be their future games here coming forward. And I don't know. So then the other thought, Travis, was like, okay, well, so are they going to go into this playing a little tighter? Are they going to be playing the same pressing style that they did after Christmas that produced all those high-scoring games? Yeah. So, their last 2 matches, the 2-1 home win to Brentford, where Brentford played great, and then they have this 0-0 draw with City at City. I don't know what to expect. Brian and I talked a little bit about this yesterday. I don't know if they might play a little bit more compact, a little bit more reserved, maybe not press as much until the second half, or are they going to say, no, that strategy was for City. Come Luton home, we're going after it, and we're trying to score 6 goals again.
I was going to say, so the fact that Saka was training is good. You're playing against a Luton team that might not even have Tahit Chong. Alfie Doughty is a doubt for the match. There's
2 big players for them this
giant
season.
Players. And then they're already down however many other people. So it's a home match against Luton. If you don't win that game, like your prediction, which is 3-0, by the way, you're 0 for 1 on your predictions also.
What did I say, City?
2-1 victory for Arsenal Football Club.
I was in my feels.
Well, look,
Are you ever not in your
were
feels?
soring.
That's a good point.
I would say you're not just high. You were probably in a low oxygen level of high. So what I'm saying is, Luton is different. Like, this is one where all of your key people should be getting rested here because you've taken care of business.
But you have. Yes,
but you have to
take care of business in the first half, and then don't worry about it.
You turn around to away Brighton on Saturday,
right,
and then follow it up on Tuesday with the first leg of Bayern.
Yeah.
So, which then 4 days after that, you are home to Villa.
Yeah.
So all you're hoping for is that Ollie Watkins is still out, and that John McGinn gets another red card before that game.
We want Villa. Villa beat us.
Right. Remember, which is why I feel like City should have some revenge on the mind this week.
Yeah.
For Villa. Either way, what I'm saying is, like, you've got some real tight turnarounds. I know there were some FPL accounts for sure. It might have been, was it Andy Martin maybe that was asking, like, basically you're saying, like, Arsenal's gonna, they're gonna have to get up for Luton, and then 4 days later have to get up again for Brighton, and then 3 days after that have to get us. All these same guys are going to keep doing this, and then Bayern, Villa, Bayern, and then a double game week in 20, for game week 34. Like,
so the good
news
is,
then leads right into Spurs, and depending on what you guys do against Bayern, then 3 days after Tottenham, like you said, that is 3 days after Spurs is when you would have the first leg of the
semis,
Champions League semis.
Yeah.
So this is like, this is the.
Oh, this is it.
This is right now.
This is it. Everything's built till this moment.
These points in this week and Saturday are like, this is 6 of the most important points of your season. Yeah. I cannot imagine that Saka doesn't play every free minute. As long as
probably if I imagine he starts every game, and then based on results at half and or 60 minutes, comes off.
I brought him in. My wild card is now.
My wild card
is over. My wild card
is
done. But the training announcement today
helped you.
Is what swayed me to just say, you know what? I'm just going to put him in there
because we were talking about you might go Havertz,
right? And there's a lot of other directions it could have gone, but the point is, I guess what I'm hoping for is that Saka does in fact play, just because, and that he plays better than he has been. I guess.
He was kind of isolated.
But I mean, look, it's hard to judge the City game. I mean, that's the thing.
His defensive requirements were required more in the defensive. The defense. On the defensive side in the City match. Yeah. So I think
anyway, all of that to say, like, I think that this is the challenge is. I mean, it's way up there for Arsenal, but I agree with you. It feels like a different mindset.
Feels like a different mindset. They also are getting a bunch of people healthy back. In other words, like Tomiyasu.
I was going to say,
Tomiyasu subbed into this match.
Look at premierinjuries.com right this second, and Urian Timber is the only player listed on the drop down.
And I'm almost positive he's in first team training.
Yeah, that's what it seems.
So, Jesus is healthy, and he didn't bring a whole lot in this match, and other people maybe could argue that he should have started other people, but Thomas Partey,
who else is going to complain about everything,
is also back. So I think all these things, you're right. And if they manage the players, I think getting through this next month and a half of
your goal differential is still 6.
6, yeah.
It's up there. It is.
They didn't score, so it's still 6.
It is officially 6.
Yeah.
Are you guys deep enough for this type of run, though?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean,
everybody's healthy, so that's fine. It's just, the question is
there's guys starving for minutes. Smith Rowe can't get a minute, and he would love to get a minute. Fabio Vieira's back. He would love to get minutes. He gave meaningful minutes earlier in the season. He would love to get minutes. Reese Nelson's still there and healthy and would love to get minutes. And now the chances with these other guys coming back.
Remember that you have Eddie Nketiah? Isn't that crazy?
Zinchenko, Eddie Nketiah can't get minutes. Zinchenko can't get minutes. Yeah. So there's a lot of guys starving to play, and I think they're plenty deep to do this.
It's not just players; it's making sure that you have the quality to get it over the line, I guess. And I don't know I don't know that the guys you named are necessarily like bad players, but are they title-winning players?
It's fair,
I guess, is the question. I mean,
there's not a whole lot
of. When was the last time Smith Rowe even saw the field?
Probably about 4 games ago.
Yeah, he came on, but that's all he's been able to do is come on late.
Right.
Yeah, and that's
he
fine.
hasn't had any meaningful minutes. I mean,
Reese Nelson.
The only championship pedigree, and I hate to say this, is Havertz and Jorginho. Yeah. They have both won titles, and Declan Rice won a title with West Ham, albeit European Conference. You still had to win the games in front of you, right? You still pressure to win games, and he had to carry, obviously, him being the best player on the team, a lot of that load. So Arsenal still has a young team. They have a lot of guys who haven't won anything other than, some of the guys won an FA Cup a couple years ago when Arteta's first year. But, yeah, you're right. The only way to establish winning pedigree is to grind through and get it done the first time. And
hold off until you can buy Isak in the summer, right?
Yeah,
I hope
that'd
not.
be hilarious.
I hope not. Actually, they might just trade Ramsdale for Isak, but I hope that doesn't happen. Anyways.
Dave, so game weeks 32, 33, and 34, I think despite the crowded fixtures there, to me, Arsenal still is, I would imagine, as desirable a group of players, especially defensively.
Right.
Like I said to you earlier, the only defense that I think that I trust at all is Arsenal defenders. And for a minute, when I didn't have Saka in my wildcard team, I had Raya, Gabriel, and Kivior.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel bad about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing was Kivior. The question, I know there's plenty of opinion out there. People don't like him. The fear of they got all their players healthy again. To me, I'm just like, well, he's better than Zinchenko. That's clear because Zinchenko's been fit for a while now.
Yep.
Tomiyasu came on after Kivior was out there for 66 minutes or something like that, which is something we've already seen. Is that Kivior has subbed out sometime late in the second half to give one of those other guys whenever they make a tactical change.
Right.
He's bombing down the wing
until that point.
And getting tired.
Right. It's Kivior's spot, the same as it is like Ben White can sub out late if they want to, want to switch things around. Gabriel and Saliba are not coming out. Raya's not coming out.
Correct.
Is there anyone else other than, I guess if you were picking now, looking ahead to 34 when they have a double game week and everyone in the world that can is going to triple up on them. So at Wolves, home Chelsea, are you prioritizing Saka still? If you have if you have a free hit, say you have free hit in 34, are you putting in Saka and 2 defenders?
That's a good question.
I know we've already kind of had this question on this podcast before.
Maybe, but what's crazy is, and I mentioned this to you when you were trying to select your wild card, Havertz going into the international break had better numbers than Saka in those 6 games prior.
Right.
Yeah.
So and he also is a guy that Arteta feels like he can play in multiple different positions. So Havertz seems to have cemented himself into a starting lineup, period.
Yeah.
Or at minimum, if he doesn't start, he will be subbed in.
Yeah.
And I think Arteta loves that flexibility with him. And I think that's going to continue. And by the way, I want to mention this. We had talked about Kivior. Is he going to be locked in because of his low price?
Yeah.
I don't know. When you go to City, only I would say second going to Anfield, but going to the Etihad, if he starts that match, that tells me all I need to know.
Yeah, that was what I was going to mention. Is that everybody's fit? He was on the field at the beginning of the game.
That's right.
Right.
Right. That's a choice.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So I think, yeah, is there a chance Zinchenko might? You know what? What's crazy is Zinchenko might start the Luton game because they're not really worried about them making. They don't have to be that sound defensively.
Yeah.
There's a little bit room for error there.
Right.
Zinchenko offensively probably better than Kivior, and so. That wouldn't surprise me, but going for the rest of those games, I would say Kivior.
And then, I mean, I know it's far down the road, and injuries can change anything. But from 35 on, when there are no doubles, and you've got Spurs, Bournemouth, Manchester United, Everton, are you holding them through the rest of the season?
It's a good question. I don't know the answer to that yet. I would probably.
Are you zero Arsenal?
Mm-mm.
I would probably.
Who Arsenal do you have?
I have Saliba, Gabriel, and Saka right now.
Oh, you're full Arsenal. Jeez.
Yeah.
I probably would, Brian. I know that I think you're on the side of possibly getting out of the business, but yeah, I don't love a North London derby and going to Old Trafford. I just think, especially near the end of the season, especially if the race is continuing and they're still going after it, I still think that the players will be desirable.
I'm just
and
thinking,
that way, United's going to have something to play for too, because Ten Hag is trying to keep his job.
Is it keepable? What do you want it? That's anyways.
I mean,
all right.
Man, I'm just thinking like game week 37. I mean, that's where everybody's kind of building up for the second big week of the season, and that week, I just think if you in game weeks 35 and 36, I just think you're going to prioritize. You'll prioritize the doublers, and if you're going to make a sacrifice, I think I'm just thinking like in game week 37. I'm not sure how you do it, but like because my thought is like because you'll know then too is the title decided at that point. How much does Arsenal
by 37?
Right. What does Arsenal have to play for in 38?
Right.
They play Everton in 38, and you're like, well, is Everton going to be relegated at that point or not?
Maybe,
yeah. How much is Everton fighting for at that point? So I'm just saying, like, kind of thinking ahead. Like, Manchester City to me doesn't seem like a team that's going to take their foot off the gas. Period.
No.
Like, regardless of results, like, it just seems like they'll just get angrier as the season goes on.
Right.
Or at least that's what they have been doing.
Right.
So I guess I'm just kind of thinking like down the road, where like you've got 3, I've got 3,
I've got 2,
you've got 2. Everyone in the world who's paying attention to this game will have 2 or 3 at least
for the next
for the
few
double
weeks.
game week 30 and building up to double game week 34.
Right.
I think everyone will try to have 3 that week.
Right.
So that's the 2 questions of who do you prioritize, attackers or defenders that week. And then after game week 34, how many, if any, are you keeping?
Right.
So,
all right, let's move off this match. Nothing happened in this match indoor with City up to this point, and they haven't played their match tomorrow. This is Tuesday evening, waiting on their Wednesday match. Nothing you saw that in the City match that made you think, oh, I got to go get – I don't have De Bruyne, but I got to get him.
well, I went to get Gvardiol. And I know
I'm shocked about that.
The reason why is just that I think it's already been pretty well established from City people that he's the one guy that you hope to see play the most of the defenders. He has opportunity immediately, like just based on talent.
Well, hold on. The Arsenal match was the first match that he started.
Yeah.
In like
and it's been,
7 or 8
so
weeks.
And he had been
but he had been healthy.
Right, he had been injured.
I know.
Before that.
But he had been back. He could have started the Liverpool match. He didn't.
He did. No, he you're right. No, he did not.
He did not play. But he was in the team.
Yeah.
So
right.
that's the thing for sure. Like, there's plenty of tinkering that can go on. No one is anticipating any. I think and that could change. Like, I put him in there just because right now, like, he is a certainty to start at least while Kyle Walker is out.
Kyle Walker and Ake.
Which
Both
Kyle
are
Walker
out.
being out, and when Pep is saying, I'm not sure, his is complicated. Other guys are not as complicated as his. So that was the first thing that I was like, I don't know what that means. And also,
Sounds Groinish.
and also, who got 3 bonus points in the Arsenal match?
It was Gardeval.
Yes. And so I'm just thinking, like, this is home to Aston Villa in a revenge match this week. Next week, I would imagine for sure it's next game week on Saturday, they're at Crystal Palace, who drew them in the reverse fixture.
Yeah. In the 81st minute and like the 86th minute, it was crazy.
I know it's even more insane because I just by money's sake, because of the way I built the front half or the attacking side of my team.
Right.
One of my 2 goalkeepers is Ortega. So while Ederson is out,
Now look, I'm not knocking. I love these alternate selections here because let's be honest, if you're going to make up ground and people in front of you, that Gardeval 3% ownership, Ortega 1.5.
everyone else on my team is somebody like, again, this is why it drives me crazy to just be always chasing the template, and that's why I feel like I had to do again. I've had a good week this past week. I felt, it was a good score or whatever. And so coming in with a wild card, it was like, as much as I wanted to make Harvey Barnes my differential midfielder, I didn't pull the trigger on it.
I'm surprised at that.
This week, I mean, looking at just the color-coded matchup system, I would have gone, I almost went Eze. I almost was like, you know what?
He scored and it got called back for offsides.
I didn't actually see that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So anyway,
He did get the assist though.
Last week,
Who, Barnes or Eze?
I'm talking about
Barnes got the assist on the Isak goal in the Newcastle game. Eze
I was talking about Eze.
finished with
yes,
nothing.
I was right.
So anyway, yeah, the point being that
I
for
didn't watch
sure, I knew Ederson was going to be out this week. He's not necessarily going to be back next week. But also, I don't need my second goalkeeper. There's no reason for me to have a second goalkeeper at all. I know I'm free hitting in game week 34.
Right.
I have till game week 37 to sort out my goalkeepers.
Okay. Yeah. I like that.
And one of my 2 goalkeepers on the wild card was Petrovic from Chelsea.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
I already have one of the 2. It's just like that spot. I needed the money too because I think I'm on zero. I think I went 0.0 to fund all the moves that
Amazing. Love that.
Anyway, but Foden had to go out. That makes me really nervous because I feel like Phil Foden, same thing. Like this was another game, like in the Arsenal game, where it's like just everybody felt non-existent. Like the fact that Haaland was missing, missed a sitter. Like you said, there was nobody that was really like standout. So that's why I'm thinking, Gvardiol was, by bonus points, was the standout for Manchester City in that game, and he has a spot here now.
But you didn't have him in the Arsenal match.
No.
You do now.
I had Gabriel and Saliba, and I only started Gabriel, so my score was lower than it could have been.
Could have been, yeah. Yeah,
Anyway.
it's disappointing.
Yeah.
Well,
you're building up all of those City players anyway, because by the time you get to 37, even in 34, like they're at Brighton.
Yeah.
And then it's Nottingham Forest, depending on what the semifinals look like for them in the Champions League. But it's Nottingham Forest, Wolves. The double is Fulham and Tottenham, and they end with West Ham. We talked about this for a while now. You're doubling or tripling up on them.
right.
It's
not gonna
in
hurt.
some way or the other. You're doing something to get
for sure.
2 or 3 of them. So anyway,
No, their upcoming schedule is gravy. Absolute gravy. All right. Now, You want to discuss the rest of your wild card?
No, I want him to talk about Liverpool because they're top of the table.
All right, let's move to Liverpool. Top of the table, Liverpool.
I thought we glazed over that one. That one's done.
No, we said we were going to come back.
It's Dave's podcast. So we got to talk about his team first.
I think we need to discuss Liverpool and the fact that Darwin is now probably in Brian's wild card.
He is.
And he's in a lot of people's teams as he has to be one of the most bought guys this week.
If I was, I almost hit him in last week, which that would have been really dumb. But I saved my stupidity for game week 31 and put him in my wild card team for this week.
Is that a smart move or bad move, Travis?
He's passing the eye test finally on a consistent basis, enough to, I think, justify trying to get in on the ground floor, so to speak, right? Because ultimately he's not scored poorly; he just hasn't done it consistently enough, right? And so as we enter into the last 9 games or whatever it is from here, he's got to put up. And I think that he's doing enough right now. The only thing that I'm even remotely worried about is there's a lot of fixtures to be played. And I think they're going to rotate a little bit to get Diogo Jota back into the team and firing for Europe. So I would be a little bit concerned about that. Cody Gakpo is not going to get a lot of time, I don't think, unless they're searching for form that he's just not shown. Trying to get him some goals. But at this point, it's really just going to be a matter of are they going to rest him to try and get guys that are coming back from injury minutes? Okay. And I could absolutely see that happening.
Well, I mean, I keep seeing the way everybody talks about him is long-term hold. And the reason why, it's assuming, one, that you've used your free hit already in game week 29 or at some other point. Two, that anybody who can is going to want him for the double game week 34. Yeah, and mostly it's on the grounds that he's the first choice. He's first choice striker. Is that, I guess, is the front line, I guess, is it going to be, I mean, do you really foresee a time where it's not Salah, Darwin, and someone, whether that's Diaz or Jota?
When Jota comes in, then Diaz usually comes off, and Darwin goes off to the left, and Jota runs it's through the middle. So even then, I think he's there. The issue though becomes if they're rotating to try and get guys off the pitch to get them rest because there's too many matches, and they're trying not to have everybody injured in this final push. Yeah, that could be a consideration. But I think it's a good pickup. I still have my wild card. I still have my free hit. I'm trying to figure out what to do for 34 or leading into 34. And he is absolutely a consideration for long-term hold and for just free hitting into 34.
I mean, I feel like the debate going into this week, I mean, looking at the options, there's no reason that Muniz was not in a lot of teams. I mean, it was kind of a 4 or 5 player consideration for forwards. If you're picking money no object and transfers no object, it was Holland, Darwin, Isak, Solanke, Muniz,
and someone else. We should.
That's your top 5. But then
after who should have been included in that? Chris Wood.
Yeah, well, Chris Wood can't stop scoring either.
Chris Wood can't stop scoring. I'm not going to go there.
No, but Chris Wood for sure. And I would say, I think going into this week, Mateta had scored in back-to-back games, so that was somebody I know that was, kind of on the enabler side of things. Happened again today. Semenyo comes on at halftime for Bournemouth, and he's the one, he assists the winner, and does not, Solanke gets nothing in this game. And so another week where Solanke's not the top scoring forward on his team. Now, so what I'm saying is a lot of those those options, but I think if you're prioritizing, Darwin is the kind of the second scariest of the forwards. Like I think Holland's still the scariest forward, and then the second
Not
scariest.
according to Roy Keane. He's League Two.
Isak.
Oh, right.
Isak's last 4 matches, this flew under my radar. 8, 6, 15, and 8.
Yeah, his last week was that's what did it. So there were some people who had jumped on him early.
So his price is a 7-7, and so legitimately, I obviously have Watkins in my team. There's no set return date, mainly because they haven't released what the problem is.
Well, they at least for sure he's out this week, and they're saying he was feeling something. And Emery said that even during the match, who'd they play? Who was it? Who was it in 30 for them? That Watkins said he could have carried on playing, but the doctor told us it was better not to play with the risk.
It was Wolves, yeah.
So, yeah, the Wolves game. But what I'm saying is they already know he's not, he was going to be out this week. I think the feeling was maybe with the, sitting out a game for a not too serious, which seems like a not too serious hamstring.
So
the issue is,
so don't move him yet.
Well, just that he's already probably, if not the most popular transfer out, one of the most popular of the transfers out. He's out for sure. He's out for sure tomorrow, and then the fact that even if he was in, I think he would have been a huge sell anyway because Villa plays City,
right?
So I think the feeling was already the schedule, no doubles. We said that last week, no doubles the rest of the way. Plays Manchester City this week, and then alternating, kind of alternating plus and minus matchups every match week for the rest of the season. Yeah, you move them on, and I think it was either, if you were doing it going ahead into this game week, it was either Darwin or Isak. That was that was it. It was one of those two moves as the most popular move.
Well,
so if you had been paying attention, you may have
done
thought harder about doing it.
Yeah, maybe. All right.
But like you say, winners don't take hits. So
pretty sure I've never said that.
Okay.
But I love it when you say that, especially when I don't.
No one knows what you say.
So listen, hold on. I have questions.
Go ahead.
All right. Going in,
is it a Liverpool question?
For the rest of the season, would you rather have Muniz or Chris Wood?
It's not a Liverpool question.
No, I'm going to come back to that.
I don't know. Can I just say pass?
Yes, you can pass. You can pass till later. All right.
I think Muniz.
All right. So would you rather have Isak or Darwin? Isak, Darwin, or Watkins if you had to pick one? Now, Brian, I know you went Darwin. Do you have both Darwin and Isak, Brian?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so if you had to pick one.
That's tough.
I like what you did getting both. Isak is hot. Darwin has the most upside probably and the better talent around him.
They both have so many red flags about them.
Yeah.
But Isak at minimum is producing.
No, Isak is crushing. And I was going to say that the numbers on Isak, when we talk about Newcastle, which we can do that in a minute, but just that the numbers for him are out. They really are excellent. So that's the thing. If Darwin was as clinical as Isak was, he'd be the highest scoring player in the league. If he scored the way, if he put shots on the net,
right,
the way that Isak does, Darwin would be the highest scoring player in the league, period.
Right.
And then like you said, he's been almost as effective, if not more effective, coming off the bench. That's the really scary thing about Darwin is that you might just have to eat it if he gets benched and then just hope that he does what he has been doing
when he subs
which
on.
is maybe getting a goal or getting an assist to somebody.
Yeah.
It's Isak is just he is a soft tissue time bomb. So I don't know. I would rather have fit Isak than any form of Darwin. But you don't get fit Isak. It hasn't seemed like for very long.
Does fit Isak even exist? All right. That being said, Mohamed Salah. Scored against Brighton.
I mean, how many shots can a guy take and not get something?
His XG was 1.49. He only scored 1, meaning he should have scored at least a little bit more.
He should have scored 1.5.
I was going to say 4 shots on target.
Pretty obvious.
Credited,
0.49 more.
Credited with 3 big chances in the match.
Okay. Is that good? So I think as a Salah owner, I'm looking at that and thinking, okay, that's I like to hear that, because what I saw the last couple times he was out, it was lacking.
He took 12 shots,
which is great. That's what I want to hear as he's coming back home to Sheffield. It feels like a hat trick. It feels like a hat trick.
The team did, but I'm saying, do you want Salah taking 12 shots?
Yeah.
I would.
Okay, you want him to be that selfish?
Klopp wants every player to be that selfish.
Okay.
They keep getting yelled at when he's all worked up on the pitch and he's doing that teeth grinding thing. It's almost always because they're either not pressing, not playing defense, or not shooting.
Okay.
There is no other coaching going on. It's just those 3 things, and the not shooting part is like his biggest pet peeve. He just wants them to shoot. That's one of the big statistics that they pull in for the Moneyball stuff is, chances created, but mostly shots. Taking shots. You don't score if you don't shoot. Right?
Word.
What's the Wayne Gretzky quote? Or sorry, what's the Michael Scott quote?
Michael Scott.
You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott.
Yes. I can't remember who it was. It was an FPL account. I just know that. It was just said like Salah, does all the work, 12 shots, scores the game-winning goal, and gets 0 bonus points.
I knew it.
Connor Bradley runs up and down the sideline and does a few things and finishes with 2 bonus points.
Right.
Just to say that, this is. The game has many broken aspects, but that seems to be as broken an aspect of the game as there is. But anyway, any reason for you to choose Luis Diaz as a long-term pick? If you were wild carding going into this week, going into Sheffield, would you have taken Salah, Darwin, and Luis Diaz? Would you have dared to do something that insane?
Probably not, just because there's so many other players. I mean, you talk about Palmer, Bowen, Son, Havertz. I think I would rather have any one of them than Diaz, honestly. And so
I think game week 34, I think half the world is going to have probably.
I would agree with that.
Darwin, Diaz, and Salah.
That's it. That would be probably smart.
Lots of people will probably go with Virgil for the safety of it. If Allison's back, you might think about doing that just because you're going to see 2 greens.
I just don't think... You're going to
see Fulham green and Everton green.
Liverpool's not keeping clean sheets.
But people are going to do it. I'm just saying.
I just don't know if it's like...
You know how it works. It doesn't matter what anyone says they think they'll do or won't do. As soon as that double shows up, you get itchy.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's why I'm saying I just think you're going to look at it and say, ooh, Fulham's green. Yeah. Everton's green. 2 greens?
Fulham currently is
I need to get Trent.
Right.
He's in a knee brace, but get him.
How much longer is Connor Bradley going to be starting in his position?
Rest of the season.
Okay.
Rest of the season, I think.
I trust Liverpool defense more than City's defense.
I have been. I mean, part of
as much as Arsenal's.
But my
defense.
wild card thinking too. I mean, I kept Connor Bradley in mostly because he's cheap, but also with the thinking that that seems to be a legitimate discussion of whether or not, even when Trent comes back, if what Connor Bradley adds to
the defense
that defensively on that side, if Trent did you say that? I think you said that they might play Trent in midfield and just keep Connor Bradley in that spot defensively. Is that a actual thing, or is that a pipe dream for Connor Bradley owners?
No, I think it's realistic. I think there's a real possibility they do that. The only thing that's making me pause on that is how they're using Gomez right now, because they're inverting Gomez on the right or on the left, depending on.
Is he the the Liverpool defender that is cheap and never leaves the lineup?
I don't think he'll never leave the lineup, but I do think that he's James Milner right now. Like he's playing the role that they need him to play wherever that may be. And he never really had that utilitarian use prior to this season. He was a center back who could play right back, and that was about it. They tried him on the left. He did fine. And all of a sudden now he's basically
whatever Klopp needs him to be.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He's not amazing at anything, but he's pretty dang good at just about anything they've asked him to do. That said, because they're still inverting Gomez, I do think there's still a desire to be able to shift into that. And if that is something they want to do, having Trent on the pitch is a much more effective means to do that than using Gomez in that way.
Why not turn Trent into a 6?
6 is too deep, I think, for him.
Yeah, but no, not with his cross-field passing.
That's a fair statement, but the issue is he's always going to bomb, and then he's going to have to come back and break up play. And if he's always running behind the play, then you're going to run into the same.
He's doing that as a fullback.
You're going to run into the exact same issues that you're getting with him defensively as a fullback.
Yeah,
so I don't think a 6 makes a whole lot of sense. He could probably play an 8 if he really wanted to. That's what he played in the academy when he was first starting, alongside another player who's playing in a non-traditional setup right now.
Christian Pulisic.
No, Connor.
Oh,
Connor Cody was a center mid also. And that was interesting.
Wolves, Connor Cody?
He was at Wolves, then he was at Everton. Now he's at Leicester.
I don't know where he is.
Yes,
somewhere.
He's definitely in the championship.
He's in the championship.
Okay,
I can't remember where he is, but
all right. Anyways,
yeah. So yeah, right. I would say that it's likely that Connor Bradley will continue playing the rest of the season.
Okay.
However, the only shakeup there is how committed Liverpool are to playing that inverted position, and if they try it with Gomez on the left like they did this week and it doesn't work, I could absolutely see them pulling Bradley and putting Trent back.
Bradley started 5 games in a row.
Yeah, right. But Trent's not even in training yet, so
gotcha.
he's got another
Robertson.
3 weeks.
Does Robert factor into this? With
we still don't even know what's wrong with him.
Okay, he's got a yellow
Scotland
triangle.
Yeah, his ankle issue was it seemed like it was precautionary with on international break, and then came back, and they keep saying the same thing.
All right, last thing on Liverpool, Kelleher. How many more starts does he get?
As far as I know,
according to FPL, it says Becker is going to be Alisson, also known as, is expected back April 21st.
Whoa.
Which, if I look at the schedule here, is back for the match week 34, the double.
I don't know. Keepers, you don't have to worry about match fitness as much, and so they can get thrown back in, but they do lose some sharpness, not being in training. So I would say again, you've got a solid probably 3-4 weeks on Kelleher. I'm holding on to him. I've been riding him.
The only reason why, selfishly, I'm asking this question, although a lot of people might actually
statistically, he's been
him,
fantastic.
He has been. Now with my 2 goalkeepers currently are Kelleher and Areola. Well, now Areola's injured, so now I'm like, okay, am I going to go into a match week without a goalkeeper? So I'm just trying to keep my eye on this.
Not in the next 2 weeks, or so.
Yeah, I mean, you could pick up a Petrovic or something like that, like he did, and be fine.
I know. I just hate using transfers on goalkeepers.
Yeah.
All right.
Fair.
Let's move on. Brian, you mentioned Newcastle. And we've already talked about Isak. Did you have something else, Travis, you want to add in that?
Go for it.
But Harv Barnes is now worth mentioning.
Very much so.
And I would also say, look, it's been a while since Newcastle seems to be I've lost my train of thought. Newcastle's defense isn't what it was earlier in the season.
Well,
it doesn't seem like they've had a clean sheet. They had a clean sheet against Wolves, match week 27.
They almost got one today.
And they didn't. They let the worst scoring team in the league somehow score on them.
Well,
so now a penalty will allow that. But still, my point being is, why be in the business of Newcastle defenders?
I don't think you should be, and that's what I was going to say. Like, even last week, everyone, so many accounts piling on Newcastle, especially Lascelles made a little bit of sense because he's 3'9". So the idea that you say, well, you get a starting goal or a starting defender for 3.9. I think the cheap defenders, it was Lascelles, it was Gusto from Chelsea,
right,
and in the short term has been Connor Bradley. So you had three decent options, or at least like you had three nearly sure thing options at or around $4. Van Heck was in that same thing for Brighton, and then I think the other one now. Everyone's trying to find the money, and that's where I was earlier today. If I want to do X with my midfield and forwards, I've got to sacrifice somebody somewhere.
Okay.
So I was like 3 clicks away from having Kivior as my most expensive defender for a second.
Wow.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
At 4-3?
He's 4-4 now.
4-4, okay.
But I just couldn't do it. Like, I couldn't go into it.
So what
with
did
that.
you? Okay.
So what I'm saying is, like, Newcastle was I might have gone Lascelles. If I had wild carded last week, Lascelles would have been in almost for sure.
Wow.
Lascelles, obviously now we know ACL rupture. I
don't think I knew that.
I almost certainly
Surgery.
agree with FPL Olympian. I did look that one up just to confirm, but FPL Olympian suggested that, and I think they kind of said it on the broadcast today, maybe some sort of investigation or inquest into the Newcastle training room. Just to say that Sven Botman and Lascelles both rupture ACLs within 2 weeks of each other, and at some point, both of them, it was known that they both had issues and were allowed to try to continue on to do something.
Wow.
Then you have Livramento last week. He didn't play today. He's out at least for the rest of the month because he rolled his ankle during the match. Filled in today by Lewis Hall, because that was the other guy who could play on that side, because they had to move Dan Byrne off of that side so that he could play centrally with Fabian Schär. So Dan Byrne was an option for some people because he's 4.4.
Okay.
Lewis Hall's 4.2, and he, you'd say, like, today he was awesome. Lewis Hall, I think, got 2. He either got 3 or 2.
Got 3.
He got 3 bonus
Wow.
points. Lewis Hall was awesome today. But Lewis Hall also got hurt. Lasted 78 minutes. There was a point where they were kind of stretching him, and somebody said it.
Is that how Paul Dummett got on the pitch?
Yeah. Well, I don't think it was that exact minute, but Paul Dummett, because no, it would have been 89. No, he would have.
He got 11 minutes. Yeah, you're right. It had to be somebody else.
But like Lewis Hall might have. Who knows? Might have like fractured cartilage or something like that in his ribcage. Can you do that? Like,
no, but that sounds hard.
Either way, like Lewis Hall can't like. He gets hurt today.
Right.
So that's why I said, like, Paul Dummett now, he's 3'9". Are you seriously going to do that? Paul Dummett, who neck tackled Ashley Young to give away the penalty that lost them their first clean sheet opportunity, probably their last clean sheet opportunity for the season. Like, no, I cannot think of one reason.
All right.
Like, I was going to say even last week, Fabian Schär was the 7th most transferred in defender going into this game week. And the only thing that I can think is Green matchup, Everton. People saw Green, they saw Newcastle, and they saw that he's one of the only fit guys. He's 5'5". You'd be people are insane. The 7th most transferred in. I don't care if that's 10,000 people. That's the stupidest transfer I could think of, spending that much money on a Newcastle defender.
Yeah.
They've been objectively one of the worst defenses in the league for 3 months. Like, sure, let everybody pile in on them. Like, they do not have the same problem going forward. Like, did you see the West Ham game? I turned it off. I will tell you that, when it was 3-1, because I thought this is getting bad and it could get worse for West Ham, or it could get worse for Newcastle. And instead, West Ham backed off, and then a dodgy penalty. I mean, it was the right call, but it was still like it's an iffy whatever. They get a penalty, and then all of a sudden it's panic time because it's 3-2, and that's all you need. You need a goal.
The Newcastle West Ham game was fun.
Yeah, but that's where I'm saying, like, by the end of the season, like Isak, Anthony Gordon, or Harvey Barnes, you'll do that assuming Isak's fitness. Anthony Gordon, for example, right? Like three assists versus West Ham. So he's suspended, like got his second yellow card, suspended for the game today against Everton. Otherwise, I think he would have been a top 5 midfielder transfer going into this game week. As of right now, or at least as of a little bit earlier, I think he was had 500 transfers in or something like that. I think everyone's kind of forgetting that he was only suspended for a game. Like Anthony Gordon, like that's what I'm saying. Like that's another one. Like 3 assists and somehow finishes with 0 bonus points in that game. He finishes with an 8 because of the red. Well, the red card, I'm sure, takes it away.
Yeah.
From him. But either way, I'm saying, like, between Isak, who can't stop scoring,
so offensively,
yeah, they're great. I mean, and yeah, like, look, Harvey Barnes last week, a brace, gets a assist today, and he's taken 12 shots or something like that, or 7 shots, 8 shots, something like that in the last 2 games. He only played 23 minutes and took 4 shots, put 4 shots on target in 23 minutes against West Ham. Scored on 2 of them. So I'm just saying, like, we know for sure Miguel Almiron is out along with Tino Livramento for the rest. Probably, like, the report is now for at least the remainder of the month. Harvey Barnes is not coming out of the lineup anytime soon. That side was already kind of like that was an Anthony Gordon, Harvey Barnes contention at the start of the season. Not anymore.
Right. There's room for both.
Now they're going to need both because it's only like they have the only 2 healthy people they got. So
all right, Travis, in any of these teams with Newcastle, anything, pick your.
I've been riding
your eye.
I've been riding Anthony Gordon for 12 weeks, something like that. Like,
so he's been in your team.
Yeah, absolutely. He just keeps giving me reasons not to transfer him out. Every single week, it's like, oh, okay, I got to get rid of this. Wait, he assisted again.
I was looking at his numbers. He
just
seems
consistently
he seems to be an every other week guy.
Yeah.
He's great. He's at unbelievable
home.
At home.
Yeah, home matches. Yeah, for sure. So I don't know where he ever went. He's always been a consistent scorer, or at least a predictable scorer. And so I just I've never seen the need to go hunting for somebody else because he's there and he's cheap. And honestly, if I hadn't have hit on Gordon early, I might have got on the Palmer train, but I haven't owned Palmer all season, which is probably a mistake because he's performed significantly better. But honestly, like, Gordon is holding that spot, that price point spot for me in my lineup that Palmer probably should have been in.
What people who don't have Anthony Gordon can hope is that as long as he's got the red triangle next to his name, that the people who do have him keep selling him to drop his price below 6, because right now he's 6. Yeah. So if he goes under 6, like if he goes to 5.9 or even 5.8, like, that's unbelievable.
All right, I have a couple questions here.
Go ahead.
How much more? We all would probably guess that Palmer has scored more fantasy points than Gordon. How much more? 10, 20, 35.
I had it in front of me, so I can't play.
Oh, no. 20.
It is 20.
It's 20.
Huh.
It is 20.
Just shy of 20.
I guess I thought it would have been more.
If you had not said a number, I was going to say 60.
60?
Yeah.
Really?
Because my feeling is that Cole Palmer is just
right. I agree. That number shocked me when I saw it.
I have it written down here. Just Cole Palmer, like season MVP, FPL MVP. Like, honest to goodness, Cole Palmer might be the single biggest, like, revelation of player for the season. I don't know if there's anybody else.
It's not often I make good decisions, but I had him early.
Right. Anybody who had him early, congratulations.
I don't know that I agree with that. I don't want to downplay his contribution because it has been fantastic, but he's what, top 6, 1, 2, 3, 6, just in midfielders.
Okay.
In terms of scoring, so it depends on what you mean by MVP. If it's fantasy specific,
I just mean,
if it's fantasy specific, I just don't think so. But for Chelsea, no question. Like what he has done for his team. I guess I'm just
thinking a guy that started out at 4.9 or whatever it was, and has now I would imagine is probably the highest price riser of any player for the season.
That's fair. Most unexpected success story, no question. There's no one even anywhere remotely close.
I have another question. I have questions. All right. Right now, if you had to pick one, Anthony Gordon or Harvey Barnes?
Well,
I would still. Well, that's amazing to me. I find it hard to believe that Gordon is even right now less than Harvey Barnes. That's shocking. But so the answer is just on money. It's Anthony Gordon.
Okay,
I agree. The only thing that gives me pause is the fact that Gordon doesn't play this week. So there's that. But
didn't play this week. But he's supposed to. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Again, we're only what's past is Gordon. Past. We're in the middle of this match week.
No,
it's all Gordon.
They're at Fulham next week. Or on Saturday, I should say, next game week. They have no other concerns remaining for the season. So there's nothing else except don't get hurt. That's the only thing that's left for them for this season is don't get hurt, which they might. Home to Spurs. Offense. Offense.
They like home.
So anybody can score on Spurs. Doesn't matter. At Palace. Doesn't matter. Like that. So what? That's a offense game. Sheffield, Burnley. Double game week 37 with Brighton and Manchester United and Brentford. There's not one game in there the rest of the way that the attack is bad for them. There's no defense left. Maybe Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park on their best day is a tough nut to crack.
Right.
But other than that, they're not playing that way.
Yeah.
Probably would have expected them to score more than one today against Everton at home.
Everton's been good defensively.
I'm just saying, there's nothing about the rest of the season. And yes, game week 37, 3 Newcastle. If you're bench boosting, then yes, you should have 3 Newcastle. I just don't know why you wouldn't want to try to maximize the points of the attacking players there.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Travis. I don't disagree with any of that.
I know how Brian feels about Spurs. How do you feel about owning any Spurs players, even Heung-min Son?
I think, I know I mentioned before wild card and free hit. I do think that Son will be in my wild card team. I'm probably going to free hit in 34, and he will obviously not be in that team.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think Son is a bad purchase. I also think Brennan Johnson could be useful as well.
What about Morgan Gibbs-White?
Well, he's not on the Spurs team yet.
I
like him. I do like him, but
I had a moment of doubt with Son earlier today. Madison was an easy transfer out.
Did Son survive your wild card?
Son survived the wild card.
Okay.
I'm saying I had a moment of
they've got a rough.
I could do finish. A lot. I could do a lot by downgrading Son, and I was going to downgrade Son to Richarlison because once the news that Richarlison was fit and ready to start, which Ange has said the same thing he said the same thing about Van de Ven last week and started Dragusin anyway. And Richarlison didn't start today. I would have been probably screaming as soon as I saw that, but. Madison had some fine chances. Madison's going to get his because he's still in set pieces. So I wouldn't be that terribly concerned about holding him. But for me, it was either Saka or, it's Saka or Madison.
Right.
And it was never a consideration of it's either Saka or Son.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
That's kind of where I am right now is Saka or Son.
Which in that case, that's what I was going to say. I would still take Son if I had to pick Saka or Son. I would still take Son.
Even with the doubles for Saka coming up?
Yeah, because because Tottenham will have 2. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you had to pick one and you don't have a wild card or whatever the rest of the way, and you're just picking one guy, Son is an easy hold. And I think because, again, like, even in difficult matchups, like maybe the Arsenal game, that's probably the one where you're like, if I don't have him there,
Sure.
probably not going to kill me.
I'm not going to bring him in that week.
Right. I'm not going to buy him that week. But if you have him, like, I think you still play him. Again, they scored twice against Arsenal earlier in the season. So I know, like, I get it. It's not like this is it's a different week, and it's title charge Arsenal at that point, but it's a home game for Tottenham. So what better game for Tottenham to really stomp on Arsenal than title charge Arsenal at Tottenham Hotspur way? I don't know what is it.
Okay. Sure.
Anyway,
right.
But then even after that, I'm just saying, like, I don't think it matters that it's Liverpool and Chelsea who they play in a double game week in 36. You won't care. They play twice. You'll take Son twice instead of once. Like, that's just 2 chances for Son to do something miraculous. And then in 37, who cares if it's Burnley and Manchester City? They get both of those games at home, and Tottenham scored 3 against Manchester City earlier in the season. So 2 home games for them. One of them is Burnley. Like, probably at that point, an unknown, like a confirmed relegated Burnley. That's what I'm saying. Like, the rest of the way, like, home Arsenal is the one game, and it's only because you just saw Arsenal blank Manchester City.
Do you know what in the prior fixture earlier in the season at Arsenal, do you know who scored both goals in that match for Spurs?
Pierre-Emile Højbjerg.
Incorrect.
Rodrigo Bentancur.
Incorrect.
It was Oliver Skip off the bench.
It was not skipping off the bench. It was Heung-min Son.
Right.
And Maddison had both assists. Now, that was early season Maddison who was on fire.
Yeah. And you might get better form Maddison as he's now, getting more minutes and kind of working in form.
I just wanted to throw the caveat in there. Yes, Arsenal's defense statistically has been best all season. Last time Son played them, he scored twice.
Right. And your prediction for that game, just to remember, you're going back to 2-2. You're choosing a draw.
Did I say 2-2?
Yeah, you did.
God, that makes me furious.
I wrote it down, so that's what I got there. You got a draw in that game. Tell me that if Spurs score 2 against Arsenal in this fixture coming up, that Son doesn't have something to do with at least one of them.
He absolutely will.
Right. So that's why I'm saying, like, to me, like, Son was it was even like Luis Diaz or somebody else like that, or even Foden, where it was like Foden, Phil Foden. That was why I ended up selling Foden instead of Son, where I'm like, Foden can get rotated. He can. He doesn't. He probably won't. I don't think he will, but he could. For Son, barring injury, is not coming out. He will never leave the Spurs starting lineup.
Completely agree.
So that was the one thing. That's what ended up swaying the decision. I assume now it's going to absolutely bite me. I expect Manchester City to. I don't know that they're going to crush Villa necessarily, but I just feel like they've been on the unlucky side of a lot of goal variance lately, and it can't be like that forever. It can't possibly keep being like that.
So a watershed for Haaland coming up.
That was why I wanted him more than anything, honestly. Like, he should have scored a goal. Like, probably earlier in the season, Haaland probably scores that goal against Arsenal. He just didn't. And it's been kind of like that for him. So I just can't imagine that stays like that.
His XG in the game was 0.28.
Yeah, you saw it. I mean, he scuffed it. It was a horrible, weird kick for him, and it was a way better reaction than it was a kick.
Yeah.
So anyway,
no, that's fine. All right, let's talk about Villa quickly. We briefly talked about Watkins. We still don't know when he's coming back. I saw some higher end FPL guys. A couple of them had Konza. They cashed in on his 15 on the weekend, which was wild.
Yeah.
I currently have Douglas Luiz, who's like the 5th or 6th highest scoring midfielder.
Yeah.
He hasn't done much recently, as it's been pretty stagnant.
Well, it's because you're relying on him to score penalties, and if they're not even getting close to penalties, then you're not getting anything from him. And then if he's not playing at home, he's only seems capable of scoring in half of his fixtures anyway. So his scores have been awesome. It's just that mostly I think there's something whatever is cooled off with Aston Villa. I think defensively, like the result against Wolves was, that was best case for them.
Yeah,
they got. I'm surprised they kept a clean sheet in that game.
Wolves is not firing on all cylinders either, though. They're just problematic for them. They don't have the same firepower that they have possessed in previous match weeks. Yeah, and that's a problem, right? That's a problem.
Like this weekend, like they concede, they get kind of not rocked, but Villa handles them. Aït-Nouri had a great chance to score in that game and didn't do it. Right. And then, of course, this week they concede right away. It was Burnley, right? I think they played.
Burnley,
this was the game. This was the best possible chance for them to keep a clean sheet. It was Brun Larsen scored for Burnley.
Yep.
So right away, I'm sure if you had Aït-Nouri, if you had anyone from Wolves, you're thinking like, oh, there goes, that's clean sheet, wipe out. Now you're just hoping for something, and sure enough, Aït-Nouri scores the goal today. So
he's on fire.
Yeah, but are you going to get him?
Lots of people
I'm
are.
carding him in.
I was gonna say there's too many green. This is what happens. There's too many green.
I'll do it right now.
There's too many green fixtures for Wolves. Like he was a really popular transfer in anyway. His price might have gone up even tonight. I know he was. If not tonight, he'll go up by the time you hear this tomorrow. So, yeah, I don't know, man. To me, I still think I still think the fixtures. I said it last week about him. They're home to West Ham on Saturday. What can West Ham do? They can score. They scored.
They don't defend that great.
They are horrible defenders. But to me that's not again, you're counting on an attacking return from a defender.
Which I don't love.
You have to get an attacking return from him, because then the following week they're at Nottingham Forest. This is exactly what I said last week. What can Nottingham Forest do? They can score. They did today. They smashed Fulham today. And then in the double, it's Arsenal and Bournemouth. I get they're both home games, but both of those teams presumably can score. So you're counting on Aït-Nouri, even in that game week, Aït-Nouri to get an attacking return against Arsenal or an attacking return against Bournemouth. Maybe, sure. Roll those dice.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's why I didn't put him in. To me, it was just Wolves are a defense to target, not a defense that you're counting on doing anything. I get it. Aït-Nouri, then I said even last week though, his numbers are everyone's talking about passing the eye test, and I'm sure there are times there are plenty of times when Purvis Estupiñán first came back from his injury, everyone said that man, look at him, Estupiñán's back, he said it, I'm back, that kind of thing. And then 2 games later, Estupiñán's back to the bench, right? I'm not saying that that's not going to happen with Aït-Nouri. He's not losing his spot. I'm just saying lots of guys look great attacking wise. Pedro Porro and Udogie looked like essential picks because attacking wise they were fantastic, and now they're killing you. I don't know, man.
They're not killing me, but I hear you.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
he's he's a very popular pick, and by fixture coloration, yes, it's a very obvious choice, especially if you don't have a free hit or wild card or whatever, and you're looking at I'll take my chances with him playing 2 games in 34. He'll be one of my doublers in game week 34. So, I guess.
Any West Ham offensive guys, Travis, you would go to?
Jared Bowen.
Bowen's been around. He's probably top 4 or 5.
He got
fantasy scoring on the season. If only there was a way.
Yeah, I just saw it when I was sorting stats for.
He's fourth.
I was looking at Isak's numbers since Isak came back from his injury. The only player who has outscored Alexander Isak since he got back from his injury in 22 or something like 23 or something like that is Jared Bowen.
Obviously, that's a pickup. I've held on to him for longer than I probably should have.
Did you play him last week?
I did.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, it does not helping me all that much. I'm doing terrible.
The last 2 weeks, he's got a 10 and a 5.
That's what I'm saying.
Which is great. It doesn't help when you still own Matty Cash also.
Oh, you gotta get rid of Matt Cash.
Bowen's a 7-9. Like that's.
No, he's amazing.
Would you rather own Bowen or Foden?
The question
right now,
is,
Bowen.
Maybe Bowen right now.
Yeah, I would say so.
If you look at the full numbers here for a long time, the question would be: do you want to own Bowen or Salah? Because he's outscoring Mo Salah by a lot.
Well, Salah has been out a lot.
I don't care.
Multiple weeks.
Who would you rather have had? 0 points or Bowen points?
I would rather have had Bowen points.
Exactly.
Okay.
Even last week, I was like, yes, I finally can move Bowen on. He's doing nothing. I can't wait to get rid of this guy. Give me the Egyptian king. And Bowen gets a goal and an assist. And I'm like, as soon as that happened, I was like, there's no way Salah's outscoring this guy. Right. There's no way he's doing it. He should have, but he didn't.
Yeah. Antonio actually looks pretty good too. He's back. He's fit. He's fast.
Well, he helps.
He is muscles. He's
so strong.
Just everywhere.
One of the strongest strikers I've ever seen.
He looks like he's got a chip on his shoulder.
He's an NFL player and a footballer body.
I think he's got a good little run on him.
That guy is hilarious. He
is pretty funny.
I love Mikel Antonio.
I think he's got a good little run on him towards the end of the season. I wouldn't put it past him to start scoring. I'm not ready to bring him in. But if he scores this,
Mikel Antonio is like the ultimate differential, honestly. For the you wouldn't even think about it.
He's a streaky player though too. Like historically, he does go on little. He
hasn't
runs.
done much this year. I would love to.
He's been injured.
I know he's been hurt almost the entire year.
He looks fit. He looks like himself. I don't think that there's a lot holding him back right now. So I think if he catches form, he's fine.
Now that Areola is injured, it's Bowen or no one.
Yeah,
that's it. Do you want to put Jared Bowen into your team? Because that's it. There is no. You're not. Kudus is an amazing player to watch. Paqueta is a fantastic player in real life. Mikel Antonio can get some, but other than that, that is it. You are not buying. You are not touching the defense. Okay. You are not swapping Areola to Fabianski. You are not. They are slow. They are terrible. You are not doing anything with West Ham except for Jared Bowen. That's it.
All right.
That's succinctly put. Thank you.
Is there any way, and I think we'll be wrapping this up here soon. Is there any way that Diaby or Bailey from Villa sneaks into a wild card team?
They've kind of dropped off the boil, or Bailey has dropped off the boil. Diaby's kind of shows up here or there, but he's just
Diaby
they just don't do anything.
Wolves.
Yeah, they just don't do anything consistently enough.
Diaby's last 4 matches, 4-1, 4-14. It's not bad.
You're right. I don't know,
and that's in limited minutes.
I just think the same issue with Watkins applies to them, but in a worse way because midfielders are better than they are.
Yeah, if Watkins doesn't play, maybe.
I just want to make sure we're trying to cover all the bases. Brian, what did I miss? Is there some guy on a team that we haven't talked about? I do think it's fascinating that Carlton Morris is where he is in the current rankings, being 1 point on the season behind the almighty Isak, and that's with
a fantastic
Isak's
point.
grind. And the other thing is this. I couldn't believe this stat I saw today. Luton is currently the Premier League leader in consecutive games scoring, and that is at 18. And they are in the relegation fight. Luton might not be able to play defense, but the Cardiac Kids, man, they can show up and they can score. And I'm just fascinated by that. And it's just Carlton Morris.
Yeah, they're working. They're working real hard.
It's just there.
I just think if you this week you were trying to do everything you can to get away from them because you were trying people, like I did the same thing a lot of other people did. I swapped Erling Haaland to get Carlton Morris. So, this week there was no chance. I mean, it was honestly Carlton Morris that was probably the player that prompted me to wild card because I was like, he's my third forward.
Right.
And once you lose Watkins to an injury, a guy you're already, for me, was already talking about getting rid of or wanted to get rid of.
Right.
I was like, Carlton Morris is not staying in my team. He's got to go now. So it's for Luton. It's Arsenal. It's Bournemouth on Saturday. Then it's City. And then they have a single game week 34. And then it's Wolves, Everton, West Ham, Fulham. And it's all single game weeks. And you're not they're a target team. They're not okay. I guess everything that's left is, so many people played the free hit in 29. So if you kept it already, that gives you leeway in kind of the way you construct your team because, I think unless something weird happens, there's almost no chance of free hit 34, bench boost 37. Yeah. And I think most everybody is planning for bench boost 37. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Free hit 34, there's not, maybe City play Brighton away. But it's on a weekend. It's on an FA Cup weekend where, by the way, they're also before that. They're coming off the second leg. It's the second leg of Champions League against Roma. So basically, they're going Luton. It's Villa tomorrow. Then it's Palace on Saturday. Roma away next Tuesday. Luton the following Saturday, and then Roma again before they play Chelsea in the semifinal of the FA Cup. And then so that's game week 34 is FA Cup semifinal against Chelsea, and it's a Saturday, Tuesday, Chelsea FA Cup, and then away to Brighton. So all of those games, that pile up, if you go without Haaland, I don't see why I'm gonna have Erling Haaland in my team in free hit 34.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll have him. I think I'll find someone else that week. That is the week Manchester United play their semifinal of the FA Cup against Coventry.
Right.
And then they're home to Sheffield. Both of those games at home. So it's would you rather have Haaland in that mashup of fixtures and then an away game against Brighton? Or would you rather have Højlund in a home game against Sheffield? Do you know what I'm saying? If you had to pick one of those guys, that's what I'm saying. If you're picking someone who plays a single game, I probably am going to pick the guy that plays Sheffield at home.
There's enough double game week options if you're free hitting that's probably not what you're going with, though, right?
Well, the forward options that week are bad because everyone's going to have Solanke because Bournemouth has a double. They're away to Villa, away to Wolves. So that's one of your
You wouldn't
guys.
rather have Mateta against West Ham and Newcastle?
Mateta is probably the other guy, assuming Edouard doesn't come back and steal some minutes or whatever. But yeah, it's probably Mateta who gets 2 home games against West Ham and Newcastle.
And Darwin would be on top of that list.
And then Darwin's probably 3 because it's the Fulham-Everton matches. So that's what I'm saying. If you have any guys at your disposal, and then you have by then Cunha from
I was
Wolves
getting ready to check and see.
probably
going to be back.
Cunha did not play. He did not play in 30. I don't think he was even on the bench, but I think he is at match fitness.
Yeah,
so
he's no longer on injury.
He should be playing.
Good for Wolves.
Oh no, he didn't play today. That was what it was.
Okay.
They played Burnley today.
Right.
He did not play.
Okay.
So he should be. He should, if he starts, you'll see him start either West Ham or Nottingham Forest. By then you'll know.
All right.
So that's what I'm saying. All of these teams, you look at it and you're like, well, it's all kind of building up to 34. So if you're not free hitting that week, and you're probably not bench boosting that week, you're gonna still probably have all the guys.
Cunha came off the bench on this.
He did?
76 minutes.
Okay, so he did get some minutes today. So he's fit enough to do that. So, like, you're just going to have to eat it that week. If you've got Isak, Darwin, Holland, and no free hit, like, you'll be okay. I think with Isak, Newcastle has Crystal Palace away that week. You'll be okay with that. If Holland plays Brighton and he starts that game, I'm sure you'll be fine with. You know what I mean? Like, it's not bad. I'm just saying, like, anybody who can pick, I think you're going to pick you might be swayed going into those games. Like, you might actually look at it and say, like, well, maybe I can swap Holland out this week. If I've got no other, like, fires to put out, might swap Holland for...
I got 4 red triangles. I got lots Darwin of fires to put out.
Yeah, right.
All right. What was missed? Anything missed? Any last blurbs we want to throw in there? Brian, Travis?
He's ready to go, Brian. You gotta.
I know.
You gotta wrap it up. Don't go on that big diatribe of stats that you.
No,
you
I don't have. Honestly, there's just.
He can't take it.
I feel like the players are. I feel like the players and situations are kind of picking themselves just because you're building to 34, and then basically you're kind of starting over again from 35 to 38.
Yeah.
So. Again, it's more about what you have left for chips. The one stat of the week was Ivan Toney. That was one of the guys. Like I didn't sell him last week. Ivan Toney took 9 shots against Manchester United. Brentford took 28 shots as a team against Manchester United. How that game ended 1-1 with both goals being scored in like the last 10 minutes of last stoppage time at the very end is nuts.
Wow.
But 9 shots. Cole Palmer took 9 as well.
Okay.
Only Salah took more than both of those guys. Tony somehow managed 0 shots on target, but did have a big chance to score, had an XG of nearly 1. Like, Tony's one of those guys, like, if it's 2 things. It's like, if that's the Manchester United defense, like, if that's where they are defensively, like, they can concede that much.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, they're not... United's already a team nobody believes in anyway, but defensively...
They don't believe in themselves.
Well,
sometimes they do.
Sometimes they do. That's exactly it. Sometimes they do. And
they did in the FA Cup against Liverpool.
So I'm just saying, like, that also, like, with Tony looking awesome, and Brian Mbeumo is fit to start. So Brentford's about to get Brian Mbeumo back. I mean, Brentford's one of those teams that, like, it could be the same thing. Defensively, they're not. I mean, we already know they've got so many missing pieces or pieces that are not as fit or whatever that matter. But they're about to be back to, like, full attack Brentford, and a piece that was honestly, like, did you have Mbeumo to start the season?
Yeah, to start.
Did you have him?
Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you get one, if Mbeumo comes back and gets a penalty, like,
is he on them though?
He was.
But the question is, will he be on them
with
Tony
on the
field?
pitch? That's a good question.
Maybe. Oh yeah, true. Because Tony was out.
Probably not.
I don't know.
He was good.
I guess we'll see. What I'm saying is, like,
early.
That's a team. Like, Mbeumo is a guy, like, all eyes on Mbeumo, like, to see what he looks like coming back and. How sharp and fit he looks. So
okay, all right. I'm going to go through the top 3 as you're re-looking and double checking. Top 3 in the FPL America Podcast League. I surprisingly, even to myself, had climbed up to number 2. Currently in this mid-match week, I have gotten knocked off the number 2 perch at the moment. Obviously, there's a lot of games left to play, and Sun Sail Away League Bo is still in first place, followed by the Leapfrogger Rockabye Angel League Shen, and then me. I am rounding currently out the top 3, although tied, I see, with a Flecken Team League Xander, who perennially is at the top of our mini league. So congrats to everyone. I hope your week gets better than it is. Today, after today's games, I don't think anyone has any rocking scores. I think League Diane actually had an amazing
She had
day.
8 Nori. What's why?
She had, I think she also had, I think she's got a 27 on
That's
the day
high.
so far.
That's a lot.
Which is ridiculous. In our mini league, she jumped up. She's got 21. She had Neto in goal, 8 Nori, and then Ilonga, Madison, and Son. and add all that up gets you to a 21. So she's had a lot of players play.
Ilonga, boy, that's very unlucky. Ilonga should have scored.
Wow. Okay.
She should be on a almost 30.
Yeah. So she's gone with some differentials here at the moment. It's helped her jump up. She also has Regulon, Gabriel in defense, and then Captain Sala, Holland, Vice Captain Tony. For what that's worth.
I'm telling you, Tony makes me nervous. Man. He's one of those guys. That's what I'm saying. Like look at transfers in.
He just hasn't done it yet.
No, I know, but I'm saying like transfers in even this week, he's 4th.
Yeah,
he just got through his preseason.
It's not a ton. It's not a ton of transfers right now, but still, like Isak, a very obvious number 1. People still believe in Solanke despite his blank against Crystal Palace. He's 2nd transfer. Darwin 3rd, and then a little bit of a gap there, but Tony's 4th.
Just checked Isak's ownership. It's up to 19.4. That was a little surprising to me.
It jumps fast.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, Brian. One last thing. This is it.
No,
okay.
There's no last
All
things. Right. You still have. There's so much to learn.
When you hear us next, there. I guess it's possible there could be a new league leader. I just don't see Liverpool losing to Sheffield. So when we come back,
things have happened.
I doubt. I cannot imagine a world in where that happens, especially at home at Anfield. So, all right, for the FPL America podcast, this is David Smith. Until next time.